Hello, my name is Cassandra Blanco. I am Roman Catholic and I welcome you to my channel. Today's guests are my friends, Christina and David Hanna. And so first I want to welcome them. You could say hi.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
And with them, as well as their baby, their newest addition to their family. So, before we start with the podcast, I just want to go ahead and read a short biography about them. So, David was born and raised in Georgia, and Christina was born and raised in Florida. They met in Jacksonville, Florida, and have been happily married since 2023. They just had their baby in October. David works in finance, and Christina is an attorney. In their free time, they enjoy going on hikes and eating acai bowls. Did I get that right?
Acai, yeah.
Acai bowls. What are those, by the way?
They're like a fruit blend bowl. I don't know. It's some trendy thing now, but they're really good.
Okay.
Like purple
Awesome.
pomegranate, yeah. Basically.
Well, welcome to both of you. So, just a
Thank
brief history. I know Christina because when I worked at Resurrection Catholic Church in Jacksonville, Florida, she was a parishioner with her family there, and I got to know her parents especially very well. So, but life has moved on. We're in different places now, but I'm very happy that they're on my podcast. And so, David, this is the first time actually I've met David, so glad to have him as well. So, why don't we just go ahead and jump in? Why don't we start with you guys introducing yourselves? You could take turns. Tell us, where were you born? Where were you raised? Where you went to college? Just to introduce yourselves.
you. And start, I guess.
And
All
whoever
right.
wants to start.
Yeah, sure. My name is David Hanna, and I was born in Valdosta, Georgia. So we're the southernmost city in Georgia, next to the Georgia-Florida line. There, I attended Valdosta State, both undergraduate and master's degree in accounting. And I moved to Jacksonville in 2019, whenever I accepted a position at Ernst& Young, which is one of the big four accounting firms. And from there, I've been in Jacksonville ever since. And Christine and I, we got married in 2023, and now we have our baby Zoe.
All right.
They're
Big
thorough.
speedy. That was a big speed through your whole life. All right, Christina, we'll go in
Yeah,
deeper,
we'll go into
especially about
pieces.
faith. We will, but
Yeah.
go ahead, Christina.
So,
You want to introduce
um,
yourself?
yeah, born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. It's in the United States. And oh gosh, what were the other questions? I went to Jacksonville University, so born and raised again in Jacksonville, Florida, kind of been here my whole life. Went away to law school in Naples, Florida, and that's kind of was my first time away from home, and then came back to Jacksonville, where I now work as an attorney. So, yeah.
Awesome. And Christina, did you go to Ave Maria?
I did.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
went
I
to
didn't know where you went to college. Okay.
Yeah, well, Jacksonville University for undergrad, but then the law school, the Ave Maria School of Law in
Yeah.
Naples, Florida. So
Awesome.
Fun fact, the owner of Domino's Pizza started that law school.
Mhm.
he did.
Yes. Yeah.
Good
That's
old Tom
awesome.
Monahan.
Yes, awesome. All right. So why don't we delve in, especially this podcast is about faith. So why don't we especially delve in about your faith journeys? So if you want to share just how were you raised in the faith and how did that develop and grow over time and whoever wants to start.
So I was born a cradle Catholic, and I'm actually 100% Lebanese. So my parents came from Lebanon. My mom came in 1991. My dad came in 79. My dad went back to Lebanon, married my mom, and they both moved here. So I kind of have a interesting dynamics of my faith. So, like I said, I was born in Valdosta, Georgia, and there's only one Catholic church in Valdosta, Georgia. Meanwhile, in Jacksonville, Florida, there's 62 in the diocese. So big swing, predominantly in Valdosta, Southern Baptist. So Catholic is definitely the minority. But growing up, it's kind of interesting. I would go to mass every Sunday. Never really went to adoration. Never really prayed much as a family, but my parents were definitely spiritual in the sense that, anytime somebody was sick, my mother would always be generous and cook for them.
Mhm.
So, while we never necessarily prayed as a family, we definitely, did things that I think that Christ would do.
Mhm.
So definitely in our actions, more so in the, spiritual rituals.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, so fast forward to 2019, I would say that my spiritual journey really took off whenever I moved to Jacksonville, Florida by myself, which is only about 2 hours from my hometown. but definitely moving to a city that I did not know was definitely nerve-wracking. And I guess like at the time, I never really realized that whenever I moved, I'd be all alone. So immediately, whenever I moved to Jacksonville, I joined the closest parish to where I was living. And from there, I just, joined that church community. And unfortunately, I was only at that church for 6 months until I moved to near where I met Christina's dad, which I'm sure we'll get to in a second. So yeah, like I said, I joined the church, and immediately like I got to know different people of faith and definitely felt welcomed. So yeah, I would definitely say once I moved, my prayer life definitely increased because when you're lonely, you kind of do lean more towards God for comfort.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Okay. I was just gonna,
That's
yeah,
good. That's
yeah,
good.
that was
So
great.
he's always making noises over here.
Sorry, she's
Oh, no problem. The baby. Yeah, no problem. So, if we could back up just a little bit in terms of the Lebanese Catholic Church, I know, isn't that Maronite, right?
So I think Maronite is technically doesn't fall under the Diocese of St. Augustine, but it, the Catholic Church I think accepts the Maronite Church, but I
Mhm.
don't think it's tech. And Christine, you might want to correct me.
Well, he's Roman Catholic.
I'm Roman
yeah,
Catholic.
but it is common that they're Maronite. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Right. It's the Maronite rite that's Lebanese. I actually know
Yeah.
Father Gabriel Bakar. He's a Franciscan friar with the CFRs, and he is from Jacksonville. And I
Oh,
know he
nice.
goes to, sometimes he goes to the church there that's Lebanese, that's Maronite.
Yeah.
So it's an Eastern rite in the Catholic Church. It still does all fall under Rome, but you're Roman,
Mhm.
right? So your parents, when they came to America, they just started going to the Roman Catholic Church. Or
Correct.
were they also
Correct.
Roman in Lebanon? Or you
I
don't know?
don't
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think
Okay.
it would fall
Would have been the
under the
Maronite.
Maronite order,
Yeah.
I guess. But in Valdosta, you have one option, and that's
Right.
Lebanon.
Yeah, it's the Bible Belt. And
Yeah.
so when you were going to mass there or like growing up Catholic, were you ever ridiculed for your faith or did you feel like it was people were
Yeah,
really
it's
accepting of you?
yeah, Valdosta is a very small knit community, and like even if you're not Christian, I mean, Valdosta, like they're very supportive of one another, and I would say that I never had any type of not persecution, but any type of rebellion or any type of
Hmm.
you know people adamantly showing that they were against the Catholic Church. I wouldn't say so.
Hmm. Yeah, it's one of the beautiful things about America that not all places around the world have is
Mhm.
that Protestants and Catholics pretty much get along, you know?
Now, I would say people have commented that why do you worship Mary? So there definitely
Mm.
are some little nuances that people have made comments, but definitely it's more of like, a civil conversation. Nothing.
Right. It's just differences of opinion
Yeah,
rather than like
absolutely.
persecution. Like you're a
Yes.
Catholic and yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No.
exactly.
Now in Lebanon, that's definitely the case because there
Mhm.
are Muslims and people are rejected for their religion, even killed,
Mhm.
as you see today.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep. And one more question. So how did you, David, you got involved? So you got into Resurrection. Did you get more involved in what organizations or what helped you to grow in your
Yeah.
faith while you were there?
So I was a Knights of Columbus member back home at my home parish in Valdosta. So whenever I moved to Resurrection, I immediately joined the Knights of Columbus Council, and that's where I met Christina's dad. And also Christina's dad also has was doing a program called That Man Is You. It's by
Mhm.
Paradisus Day.
Mhm.
So once again, I joined that I joined the kind of like the club per se, and I
Mhm.
started attending that ministry, and that's where I met Christina's dad.
That's
And the
pertinent.
and it was
Yeah,
love
yeah.
love at first sight.
Yeah, really.
All right, we'll
Get to
get
that
there.
later.
That's awesome. All right, Christina, do you want to share just about your faith journey?
Yeah, so I too, born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida, cradle Catholic. Um, again, went to Catholic school my absolute entire life except for undergrad. So I went to Resurrection Catholic School where I attend, the parish that we were talking about, and then went to Bishop Kenny Catholic School. Um, then again deviated, went to Jacksonville University, but then went back to Catholic law school, and then started my career. So my faith has been very integral in all parts of my life and like how I decide to live. So and just because like my parents have been very involved as well
Hmm.
in resurrection from since I was a baby, being Eucharistic ministers, leading, ministries, like he was saying, that man is you, a day for men, a day for women. Just my parents have always been very active. They've even done, oh my gosh, why am I blanking? CCD, they've taught that, so just seeing how active they've been, kind of inspired me to, lead their example, caused me to also want to be an example to others. So I, in high school, became the youth minister, well, a group of youth ministers, because I was in the youth ministry as a resurrection as well, but wanting to also help lead the youth. So I became a youth minister. And then after that, went to JU and helped out with Catholic Dolphins there. So that was a really nice experience. So I would just say, again, because of my parents' example, I have kind of been able to integrate Catholicism into my, everyday life. So
Mm-hmm.
I know. And she's saying that because she just got baptized and she's like, I'm Catholic
Yeah.
too.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's and pretty much I wouldn't say that I've been surrounded by Catholics. I wouldn't say that, but a great deal of, again, even college when I went to Jacksonville University, I was still a part of this student ministry, Catholic student ministry. So um again, that's kind of been my upbringing, is just leading by example from my parents, which
Mm-hmm.
has been really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so beautiful. It's just both of you, for both of you, your journey has been very much embedded in your family and staying Catholic and
Hmm.
then now carrying that into your marriage, which is awesome. All right, so why don't we get into the story about how you guys met?
I
Do you
like
want-
when David tells us.
Well,
Well, we have two different versions.
yeah,
So let David tell his side and then I'll tell my side.
Okay.
and I'm sure we can kind of fill each other in. So,
Sounds great.
like I mentioned, when I initially moved to Jacksonville, Florida in 2019, I went to a Catholic church called Blessed Trinity, which is on Beach Boulevard. Whoever's in Jacksonville would know. And I started going to that parish. 6 months later, I moved. So I moved to across town, but coincidentally, I still went to the same church. I still went to Blessed Trinity. And I still remember the date. It was Sunday. They had a mass at 11 o'clock, excuse me, 10 o'clock. And I was driving to mass and I said, why is it taking me 25 minutes to go to mass? There's got to be a closer church than 25-minute drive. So I pulled over on the side of the road. It was a CVS parking lot. And I typed in Catholic churches near me. And I found Resurrection Catholic Church, which was 1.2 miles away.
Hmm.
It had mass at 11. And remember, I was going to the 10 o'clock mass. So I said, I can get there a little early. So I started going to Resurrection, which was only 5 minutes away from where I had just moved to. So I started going to Resurrection. And immediately, there's a university across the street, Jacksonville University, where Christina went to school. So I said, surely there must be youth at this church. Well, I hate to say it, but there's kind of not. It's predominantly older people who go to Resurrection. So I started going there week after week, and I said, man, there is nobody young here. It's all a bunch of older people. Until one day, Christina's dad was at the altar giving a little speech about that man is you, inviting all the men to come. So I said, that man is you. Maybe that's a great way for me to continue to work on my faith and, learn a thing or two. So I started attending That Man Is You. 2 weeks go by. I went to the Knights of Columbus meeting that we just had. It was a
Hmm.
Thursday night. I saw Christina's dad again. I said, this man looks pretty involved. Let me get to know him. So one day after mass, I walked up to him. I said, hi, Mr. I said, first I called him Robert. I said, hi, Robert. My name is David.
They were on a first name basis.
First name basis. I said, you look pretty involved in this parish. I said, I'm David Hanna. Nice to meet you. And again, a couple of weeks go by, and I said, man, I really like this man. He's super involved in the church. Maybe he knows some young girl that I could meet. So after one mass one day, I walked up to him. I said, Mr. Roldan, I have a question for you. He was like, sure, what's up? I was like, do you know any single Catholic women in this church?
He did. So bold, so bold.
And he said, you know what, David? Let me speak to my wife to see if we can think of anybody, and we'll get back to you. So that night he sends me a text. He said, David, I want you to friend request my daughter. She is currently in Naples in law school, and I want you to just start talking to her. So I sent her a friend request on Facebook, and I'll let Christina take over.
Okay. I'll start, I guess, from yeah, that actually was good. That's good. That's my perspective. So my dad messages me and he's like, "Hey, Christina, there's this handsome young man at Resurrection, I want you to meet him." And from my perspective, I was like, "Dad, what are we doing?" I was like, "I'm in law school. I'm in Naples. Like, wait, I don't have time for friends, okay? I don't have time for that."
Meanwhile, she was on watching Netflix in her bed.
So say, um, again, mind you, I'm in Naples, he's in Jacksonville, so
Which is what, 5 hours away?
yeah, 5 hours away. Oh, good with the geography, yeah. So anyway, um, yeah, I was like, Dad, what? I don't have time for more friends, but fine. So I get a friend request from David, and I accept him, and he messages me, and we're going back and forth, just being cordial at the time,
Mhm.
and he says, "Hey, Christina, I forget like the specifics, but basically wanting to know if there was any young adult stuff going on in Jacksonville, right?"
Mhm.
So with the intention, and I feel so terrible now, but with the intention to kind of like get him off my back, let him meet some other people, some other ladies, I don't have time for this. I messaged him back and I was like, yeah, there's something called Theology on Tap um, in Jacksonville. It's actually tonight, and my friends are going to it. You should go,
Mhm.
right? So, then, well, just switch her, yeah, the other way. So I messaged him and I say, "Hey, there's Theology on Tap. Why don't you go?" Because my friends were going.
Mhm.
My best friend at the time, obviously she was going, so I messaged her. Did I tell her that you were coming?
Yeah.
I did, yeah. I messaged my best friend and I was like, "Hey, just keep an eye out. Some guy named David's going to be there, something like that, right?" So that day goes on and the night comes. He goes to Theology on Tap. Should you take it over from there?
Yeah, so what Christina forgot to mention is whenever she told me about Theology on Tap,
Oh,
one of the things I said, "Hey, like, do you have any friends that I could, like, can I have their names so I could speak to somebody that I know, somebody mutual?" She didn't respond. She left me on
I
red.
didn't. I left him on red. Again, I didn't have time for it, Cassandra. I was in law school, okay? 5 hours away. I had no time.
So I show up to Theology on Tap not knowing anybody. And this is actually a very funny story. So Theology on Tap was taking place at Riverside Brewery,
Yeah.
which is along the water, the St. Johns River downtown, which is no longer there.
Yeah.
They went out of business. And and I'm trying to remember, it was October, so it was like 60s. It was nice weather. The event was outside on the dock, overseeing the river.
Mhm.
So I, saw that there was a banner that said Theology on Tap. You had young people, drinking, talking, having a good time. And the event did not start yet. So there was this group of people sitting near, the table. So I pulled a chair and I sat next to them. So I started talking to them. I said, "Oh, so how long have y'all been in Jacksonville?" They said, "Oh, just for, a couple of days." I said, "Interesting. They're coming to Theology on Tap and they've only been here for a couple of days." And then I said,
It's a little bit of a tangent.
so I
story.
said, what parish do you go to? And they said, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Oh, I go to Resurrection Catholic Church. What church do you go to?" They're like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Are you here for Theology on Tap?" They're like, "No, we're visiting from Maine."
He
So,
sat with a random
so I
fish.
sat with a continue the story. So Theology on Tap happened. They had, I forgot the friar's name who was giving the speech. Very, very nice event.
Mhm.
And as people were leaving, I said, "Wait a minute. I still haven't met any of Christina's friends." So as people were leaving, I said, "Excuse me," really loud, and everybody stopped. I said, "Does anybody know Christina Roldan?" And then from the back, I hear this girl say, "Is that David?"
And that was my best friend.
And
Mary.
it was her best friend, Mary. So I met Mary and all of Christina's friends, got to know them. They were all very nice. And I went home that night and I let Christina.
And so that night after Theology on Tap, again, I'm in Naples, he's in Jacksonville. My best friend Mary calls me, and I'll just skip to pretty much the part that, got me. She calls me and she's like, "Oh, Christina, I met your friend David. And let me tell you, when I tell you I have Holy Spirit vibes that this man is your husband, I was like, at this point, I was like, okay, first my dad, now Mary. I was like, what is going on here? Like, why is everyone, I don't have time for this. Again, I'm busy. So yeah, she was like, "No, Christina, he's your husband." I just have Holy Spirit vibes. So that's what happened. But then immediately after, I'd say minutes after hanging up the phone with her, I get a message from David, and I forget what the message says. I'll be honest.
I said, call me, and I gave her my number because I still haven't had her number.
Oh yeah, we were just doing Facebook Messenger. And pretty much after that, we talked, pretty much all night. And it was like a 3-day weekend. So we decided to go on our first date.
You were actually coming.
Yeah, I was going back to Jacksonville. I forget what holiday it was. It was some holiday, but
She made up the holiday.
Whatever. I went back to Jacksonville for that 3-day weekend. We went on our first date, and the rest is history. Here we are.
That's great.
Later.
I think coincidentally, COVID happened, and we got to be with each other for over a year while she did remote
learning.
9 months while she did remote learning.
Yeah. So that definitely, we'll get to that too. I think that was one of the questions, but that definitely helped accelerate, or I will say like strengthen our relationship, because we were long distance for at least
3 months.
No, we weren't, for a
because
little
we started
longer.
January 2020 and COVID happened in March.
Oh, so we were long distance for a little bit. But yeah, COVID, as terrible as it was, it gave us the ability for me to at least be home and remote work and go to school remotely. So that definitely strengthened our relationship. And I guess, credit it being like God wanted this to work out, giving us the opportunity to get to know each other better.
Yeah. Aw, sweet. That's great. What a sweet story. So you guys started dating in, you said January
1,
2020. Yeah.
And then you guys got engaged when?
It was April. I don't remember. Was it April 8th, 2022?
I don't know.
It was Divine Mercy Sunday. No.
Yeah.
It was whatever that day.
It was. I know that's so random. Divine Mercy Sunday of the year of 2022, because it was the week after Easter. We'll put it that way. The week after Easter, we got engaged.
Okay. So
I know our wedding date. So that I get credit.
That's okay. So you guys dated 2 years. So why don't you talk about that time? How was dating? And also engagement? Why don't you talk just about that period of time, ups and downs, anything you want to share about that time?
So dating was, at that point, Christina went back to law school in August or September of 2020. So we were long distance for a good year and a half. And I would definitely say, Christina was in law school and I was working full time. So we were both definitely very busy, but it was rough.
Yeah.
But I think what kept us rooted was that we knew that this would be very short term, because she was returning to Jacksonville when she graduated, and she would be, working in Jacksonville. Yeah. So, that definitely made it easier. But, we would pray the rosary every night or when we could.
Yeah.
I went down there a couple of times, visited her.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Thank God for technology, because we would FaceTime every night. That was consistent. And when we, we'd pray the rosary almost every night consistently. We would try to. And I would say just prayer and again, thank God for the ability to see each other via FaceTime, because that really helped. Because if we had to write letters and stuff, I'm pretty sure God would have still orchestrated our marriage, but that would have still been rough,
Yeah.
But it was because, we were both equally busy. He was working full time at a very demanding job at the time. And again, I was in law school, which is also, very demanding. And we were long distance, 5 hours. So it was definitely difficult to see him in person, because again, that 5-hour track is not easy to make, again, especially when you're busy. But we made it work, and here we are. And I would just say, stay consistent and prayer, really. Mm-hmm. Make faith the center of your relationship, because you can talk all you want, over the phone, but prayer is what keeps you through, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So. And I guess not being codependent emotionally is important.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by that, David?
Having a relationship with God and not letting your other half be your comfort. Mm-hmm. I guess you can definitely have each other for comfort, but not relying on them for total comfort. Mm-hmm. I think we definitely get complacent, and we tend to rely on each other emotionally. But I think it's important to, even in marriage, to be united, but also to be kind of separate in your prayer life, but also obviously praying together. It's both definitely and praying for each other, praying for the success of the marriage. And obviously now with Zoe, it's definitely not easy. Trying to, again, pray for each other and just being one can be definitely challenging. Once you
finding the time to do all of that is the difficult part.
Yes.
but we'll
Yes.
get to that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and marriage, it's a beautiful sacrament, but at the same time, the other person's not going to fulfill all the desires of the human heart. Only God
Yeah.
can do that. So marriage
Right.
has its place, and that person has its
Yeah.
place, but that's not the total fulfillment. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So do you guys want to talk now about you guys got married, and that was when the date, and then just talk about how has marriage been, ups and downs. You can share about
April
that.
15th, 2023.
Yeah, he
You
always
got
does
it.
too. He wants to extend it. We've been
Yes.
married longer.
23.
Yeah, 2023. I would say so. We didn't live together or anything like that before marriage. I lived with my family. He lived on his own.
3-minute drive away though.
He did. It was very convenient, very, very nice. Yeah, he lived 3 minutes away, so it was nice. So most people, I don't know if it was really much of an adjustment to live together after getting married. I know most people say it was, but I think again, when you just get along well and you just make it work. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, I don't, it really wasn't much of an adjustment. I know people are like, oh, well, how will you know if you'll get along? Or, I mean, do you like the person? Are you friends with the person? Then you'll
Right.
get along. You know what I
I
mean?
think the
So,
biggest adjustment was just rolling the toothpaste from the bottom of the tube upwards.
yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So, yeah, the living together part was not really an adjustment. I think again, it's at the time, again, we were both working very demanding jobs. So I think just making the time for each other, even at night, not allowing, work to get in the way and just putting all electronics away when possible and making time for each other. I would say that I think would be the biggest thing is just making time for each other in such demanding jobs. But we've worked through it.
And also being involved in each other's families, I think also helps.
Yeah, I didn't think
Like
about that.
them being your kind of like your cheerleaders on
Hmm.
the sidelines,
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
having their support and their prayers as well,
Hmm.
and their excitement for the relationship and for the marriage.
Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So you don't feel like there's really any big hurdles or anything you've come up against in marriage so far. Like it was an easy transition and that's
Well,
great. That's great. I just want to do you have time or a chance to explain what your experience has been like?
Well, I guess let me go back. It's definitely like after being married, there's definitely like things like adjustments that we've had to do to become less selfish, maybe. Like for me, I know like if I would go to the gym after work, but
yeah,
now
that's
it's like,
true.
I have a wife at home. So it's like, can I go earlier? Can I try to go during
That's true.
lunch? Like, sometimes I do go and I was like, well, hey babe, like I'm gonna go to the gym now, but like we'll hang out later. Is that okay? Like, what do you think? How do you feel? So definitely just as being like more receptive
Selfless,
to
yeah.
how the other person is, and like if there are things that the other person feels, like definitely talking about it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm gonna throw myself under the bus a little bit. I think in marriage I've learned, yeah, to just help out a little bit more. I know that sounds so again, I lived at home with my mom, my dad, my sister. So there were a lot of hands to do a lot of things and some things I didn't have to do. We'll put it
Hmm.
that way.
Hmm.
But in marriage, it's the two of you, you're a team. So I think even though I will say he does most of the cooking, but that's for both of our, health and well-being because he's
Hmm.
just a better cook all around. I'm really good at making milkshakes and pancakes. So if you ever want that, I got you. But I think just, being more proactive and like, hey, maybe do his laundry as well, or like taking on more of the chores and the burdens of each other, I guess, instead
Hmm.
of just being one single person, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So doing dishes together, doing chores together, and that kind of stuff. That's something that I kind of had to, I guess, grow into in that
Hmm.
regard.
And also, marriage is not a contest. And
Mm.
the joke is that Christina's already won, so there's no contest.
That's okay, man.
That's very sweet. All right, so let's move on now. So you guys got married and then you guys got pregnant. And so you want to share about that since it's all
Uh,
very new for you, pregnancy, and having a baby and what that's been like and your time parenting as well.
so we'll start. Yes, pregnancy. That was honestly a very interesting journey because you know how I just said I was learning how to take on the brunt of some of the chores. Well, pregnancy takes a toll on you. So my lovely husband here, he took on most of the chores because
Aw.
again, I'd come home exhausted. I mean, everything was swollen, it took a toll. Pregnancy
Mhm.
is a lot. And so my again lovely selfless husband, he really did most of, he would do most of the chores. Obviously, he did most of the cooking to begin with, but even still, like he really was very receptive of, how I was feeling again because I was working full time. So he kind of, even with his job, he would do more of the things that we would do together, I would say.
Hmm.
More chores. So I would say that was a huge change, and I'm very appreciative of that. And so going into parenthood, I would say, and I don't know if you'd agree, I think parenthood has been the most difficult so far in our marriage because, when you still have a level of selfishness, and maybe selfishness isn't the right thing, but he can still go to the gym. I wouldn't stop him. Go have fun at the gym. I'll go get my nails done or something. You know what I mean? Not a problem.
Hmm.
But when you have a baby, it's like, well, I've been home with the baby all day. You can't go to the gym yet. It's that I think has been the biggest challenge so far, but it's been still very rewarding, but still the biggest challenge because now we have to really be selfless, not for each other, but for our daughter as well. So,
Hmm.
but anyway, you can go ahead now.
Yeah, I mean, Christina said everything I was going to say. You definitely, before you were kind of giving up what you want for the other person, but now I'm kind of giving up what I want for two other people,
Hmm.
kind of splitting hairs at that point. But again, like the joy of having a child is so great. You tend to not dwell on those things. So for me, it's been okay adjustment. Lack of sleep is probably the worst.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Always being tired is not fun. But again, this is just a phase of our lives, but we're definitely grateful that God gave us a beautiful daughter.
It's funny because when it was just the two of us, we'd be like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, me and my 6 hours of sleep uninterrupted. Oh my gosh, how can I go on? Now we're living on like 4 hours of interrupted sleep. And now we're like functioning. So we're like, wow, I guess it is possible, to not sleep, I guess. So yeah, I would say, and again, we were married for what, a year and some change before having Zoe too. So, and again, most people are like, why don't you wait a little longer to have kids? It's some of the things that we heard, don't you want to travel? Don't you want to see the world? It's like,
No.
I mean, yeah, but like we can do that with a kid. Like what the kid is gonna chain us down. Like, so again, but it is an adjustment. It is. That's been, I think, the biggest adjustment in our marriage thus far. But like David said, the joy that you get from having a kid is worth it. It
And
really
now
is.
you have an excuse not to have to go places or do things.
Yeah, right. You're like, sorry, I can't stay too late. My daughter, I gotta go. Getting
Right.
dressed.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I know that can also be the transition from hanging out with people that are more in the single phase or like people
Mhm.
without kids to transitioning to people with kids because your life
Yeah,
changes. Now
yeah.
you're not able to stay out late at night and all the things that are part of a single or a without kids life. So I'm not sure if
Mhm.
you guys have experienced that as well, but
Yeah, definitely. The friend circle is mostly people with kids now.
Yeah. Actually, that is really funny. I never realized that.
hmm
Yeah. But honestly, I didn't like to do any of that stuff anyway. So
it was
my
perfect for
bedtime
you.
was 10 o'clock. Yeah, I was like 10 o'clock and I'm good. That's so funny. It is. Most of our friend circle now, and I guess that's just, because of the phases of life, but
Mhm.
most of our friends now have kids and are
Mhm.
married and those types of things. So,
Right. It's the thing that you relate to. I mean, you guys are all in
yeah,
the same boat together, so that
yeah.
makes sense.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. All right. So, do you guys want to talk now about faith in marriage? How has that been? And maybe also, you guys both work in secular jobs. You don't work in ministry or in a Catholic church. So, do you want to share anything about that as well? Just how that's been, if it's been anything for you? Maybe it's not even
Yeah.
an issue, but faith in the workplace and then also faith in your marriage. What does that look like?
So we actually decided to join a marriage ministry as well. It's called Teams of Our Lady, and that's what we've been doing for the past year. And we've really enjoyed it, because, and this was again while I was pregnant with Zoe. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, a year while I was pregnant with her. And so I think it's really helped, just make sure that we keep faith at the center. It's one thing we do it once a month. It's one thing that's like, okay, we need to, make sure that we're doing these prayers, that we're keeping up, that we're, getting involved and
Reading
speaking.
our material.
Yeah, reading our material, speaking to each other and keeping us at the center as well. So I think, I'm glad we joined the ministry, and it's basically Teams of Our Ladies. Also, I should explain that as well. A ministry. It's a worldwide ministry. I forget where it started, probably in Spain. But anyway, it's a worldwide ministry, and it's a marriage ministry where basically Catholic couples get together, they read the Word of God, and there's questions that you discuss within your individually, but then you come together with your spouse and you discuss them about what does marriage mean within the church? How can we share our marriage with the community? Like, what does that look like? So it's really beautiful. You have other couples, Catholic couples, that you go to their homes their homes every month. And you just have fellowship.
Share a meal.
Yeah, you share a meal, you have fellowship. It's nothing fancy, it's just fellowship. So you can continue, baby.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed. Actually, Christina's parents are also a part of the ministry as well. So and one of the things that I really like about it is that you're able to be with different married couples in their different stages of lives.
Oh yeah.
So you can kind of see, like, things that you might experience or obstacles or problems are kind of similar amongst different age groups and different marriages. So that definitely, makes you not feel alone in terms of your marriage and your struggles. So yeah, it's definitely one way that we're able to work on our marriage and also learn from other couples, learn what works, what doesn't work, and how important it is to keep Christ in the center of your marriage, because you see every day what not keeping Christ does to your marriage. So it's definitely important that we work on it. Try to prune our marriage, prune our spiritual lives, and just build our domestic church as a married couple.
What exactly are the structures of it? It's tools, right?
Tools.
Yeah, remember.
So, like, you mean like specific, like what types of?
Yeah, like what does it actually look like? You guys do morning prayer, you do evening prayer, you have some sort of structure, you have a meeting once a month. What does the ministry actually look like in your daily life?
Yeah, so we have it's a 1 year commitment, and each month you have a chapter that you're supposed to plan beforehand. So you read specific scripture readings, and you have reflection questions based on the scripture reading. And the goal there is for the couple to read the questions, read the text, read the gospels, discuss it, and we have to actually send our questions to our team leader. And each meeting we discuss the scripture, we read the questions together. We have like a small part, like a response that we read together and we respond to. And then when you're not in the meetings, you have different strengthening prayers. I know the Magnificat's one. We also are supposed to do like different pillars. Like, for example, they want you to like rules of life, where it's like in your marriage, like what are some things that you could do together to strengthen your marriage? Like, for example, I know this is silly, but like for Christina, it bugs her with the toothpaste. She likes the toothpaste to be rolled up from the bottom. So that's one of the rules of life that I've tried to implement, is I've tried to roll up the toothpaste from the bottom of the tube, even though that's not really, spiritual. But again, it's something that you're trying to improve for the marriage, to let your spouse know that you love them and you care for them, and that you want what's best for them. So, there are different things that we work on. We also have we have something called sit downs, which are basically, every week. The goal there is for you and your spouse to have time alone, that you check in with each other, you sit down, you talk about, how things are going. Are there things that in your marriage that you need to work on? Like, are there things that I might have said to Christina that we should talk about? So it's just time for us to reflect on each other and our marriage. What other tools do we have?
And the sit down. Something with that is, they say for it to be more effective, to do it outside of like your comfort zone. Go to like a park, sit down on a bench. Go somewhere that's not familiar. That way you can really be in tune with each other. So that's been really nice. And we another thing, which is not necessarily Teams of Our Lady, but that's how Teams of Our Lady has affected us in our marriage. But we each did Cursillo separately. He did the men's Cursillo retreat. I did the women's. And in Cursillo, there's a morning prayer that they pray. Go ahead, baby.
Cursillo is?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know the
Cursillo. Honestly, I don't really know it either, but I know that's in Spain. I know that's the Spanish.
Yeah, I think it's
Cursillo.
You guys
So
are too funny. I think it's
yeah,
just a retreat. I've never been on one, but I do know it's a retreat. That's about all
yeah.
I
Within
know.
the diocese. Yeah, it's a 3-day spiritual retreat, and it's kind of like a, you know, kind of like a boot camp, spiritual boot camp
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. You wake up early and yeah,
Mass at 6:45.
but it was good. I did mine in Spanish. Thought I would, learn and get better with my Spanish. Not a good idea, but it's okay when you're sleep deprived and trying to learn a different language. But I still received the
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 graces.
graces. But anyway, so for Cursillo, there's this morning prayer that both men and women in their retreats pray, and we do that every single morning. Actually, that's the one thing that we've been very consistent about is doing that morning prayer together. And then at night we do our prayer intentions.
Intentions for each other.
Yeah, prayer intentions for each other and our family before we go to bed. And we just, yeah, so that's pretty much we try to pray together in the morning, pray together at night, and be consistent about those two things. So, and
Hmm.
obviously before meals, but
Hmm.
yeah.
It could
Beautiful.
definitely do better, I feel like, but again, it's you were just trying to survive at this point in our
Yeah,
lives.
you're just starting your family, you're trying to figure it all out. So, do you guys have any thoughts on like how you desire to pass on the faith to your daughter? Have you guys talked about that or
That's
think?
a really good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, that's a really, again, for me, the biggest thing was example, just by
Mhm.
leading by example, um, does that mean I don't know if that looks like her going to Catholic school like me? I don't know
Mhm.
yet,
Hmm.
because the unfortunate part is that the world is changing, and by the time she's, school age, what will the school system look like? I
Hmm.
not to get into all of that, but that's, will I homeschool? Will I not? Like those are things that we've thought about, but I think
Hmm.
the best thing really because the domestic church is the best thing. So by us just living out our faith, I'm hopeful that she will lead, our example will help her develop her faith, and
Hmm.
again she was baptized, so that's the first step. That's the
Beautiful.
first step. And yeah, I think like that's the best part. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Brittany.
And when you say domestic church, what do you mean? Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so again, you'll know the better terms than me, but
That's okay.
there's the Catholic Church, the Universal
Hmm.
Church, and then the domestic church, which is the family
Hmm.
unit. So we are the domestic church, the family union, who makes up the Universal Church.
Hmm. Beautiful. All right. And then did you guys want to say anything about just faith and work? That was the last question. Anything about being Catholic, going to work, or
Oh
it's been
yeah.
I would
maybe it's been
say,
a non-issue for you guys, which is great. But if anything you want to share about it.
yeah, for me, I mean, well, I'll let in Christina's line of work, she has more opportunities, I feel like, to display her faith, and she'll get, and I'm
Mm.
sure she already knows what I'm thinking. But for me, I mean, I definitely have, like, for example, we met the Pope on our honeymoon in Rome. So I have a picture of the Pope.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah, that was really, really cool.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
got a picture of the Pope and Christina and I in my office at work. So people have that, they ask me, "Oh, you're Catholic," and I kind of explain to them. And we've definitely had functions at work where, you know, Christina has come and we've had, like, our baby shower, our wedding shower. And from there, we kind of like, we talk about, whether we kind of talked about how we met. And then
Hmm.
in there, we talked about the church. So, any opportunity that I can, I definitely try to give, stories about my faith. But again, it's not something that I feel like I have. For example, I don't really work with a whole lot of other Catholics or even Christians for that matter, or people who have clearly shown that they're Christians. I guess, they say, "Hey, I'm a Christian." No, it's kind of something that you don't really talk about at work. So it's definitely not as easy for me. But Christina, I'm sure she can add. She definitely has way more opportunities in her line of work. So let her go.
Wait, tell me.
Meaning, like, the sympathy and also the
Oh,
grace you can give defendants and stuff.
yeah. Um, I won't go too much into that, but it's
Hmm.
true. Like as an attorney, at least in the line of work, I have a lot of discretion. We'll put it that way. And in my discretion, I'm able to show again some semblance of, I don't say mercy because I guess mercy is God's to give. I guess I could show mercy too, but mercy, I guess, with regard to how I handle someone's case. We'll put it
Hmm.
that way. So I will say too, along with the just showing other people, having conversations with others about the faith. The biggest thing, and I disagree. I think you're very good at showing your faith to others. Maybe not in this current job, but like in your other job, I would say friendship is key. Being friends with coworkers is that's how you reel them in. You have to be friends first, right? And you can't just go off the bat and be like, I'm Catholic. Let's talk about Jesus. So I think working in a secular environment, and just befriending people who are different than you gives you an opportunity to speak about Christ because A, hopefully they see something different in you. And obviously, like I wear Catholic like necklaces, like a crucifix. So they see that and that's conversation starters. I have decorations of crosses and scripture verses in my office. So people who come into my office are like, oh, hey, you're a Christian. I'm like, yeah. So things like that give you the opportunity to talk about your faith within the workplace. So, yeah. And again, befriending people and just getting close to them and knowing them on a personal level also gives you an opportunity to speak about Christ. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, is there anything else you guys want to add to your life story or anything about faith, dating, any advice you want to give to others who are just starting off on that journey of either dating, marriage, or parenting? Anything you want to add with?
All
Or end
some
with,
of
excuse
that.
me. Yeah.
When it comes to finding the right person, pray about it. I think I left that out. Praying for your future spouse is super, super important. And praying for yourself, to become that person that you want your future spouse to be with. So I know that I definitely prayed for David and he's an answered prayer is what I'd say. Just so praying for your spouse and just praying through all things, because without God, really, I don't know if we'd have the graces to get through this. During pregnancy, that was our number one prayer as well. Like, God, give us the grace to be good parents and just to let her know you. That's what this is about. So it's not about dressing her up in cute clothes, which that's very cute too. But let us be good examples of you and your love for her, So just pray about it and pray for the graces and pray for your future spouse.
I would add also to sum it up, whenever, like before I met Christina, I, hadn't really dated much in my life. Actually, the joke is like, well, it's not really a joke. We're each other's first girlfriend.
Yeah, first girlfriend, first boyfriend. Yeah.
So, at the time I was like, wow, like trying to find somebody to me, like this seems impossible. Like, and it seems like I've tried all avenues. When you actually think about it, you ask God to give you like miniature milestones to work towards. Okay. Let me just be in the right environment to meet somebody. And then, it's definitely going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think you have to like not expect God to work from 1 to 100. Like you have to work in miniature milestones of your life.
Yeah.
Like I moved to Jacksonville, that's one milestone. I went to Resurrection, that's another milestone. So I guess just asking God to lead you to whatever milestone you need to work towards ultimately meeting your spouse, I think going back would be something that I should have focused more on rather than just saying, I wish I could meet my future spouse today.
Patience.
Like focusing too on just what can I do today to be the person that I want to be able to, that would want to marry me, and
exactly.
And to be a good husband.
Yeah.
And father.
I agree.
Beautiful.
And just being open to advice from other people as well. Like opening your ears and just listening to other people and just having hope, I guess. Is key.
Awesome. Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, Cassandra. It's nice seeing you again.
It's so nice to meet you, David. I got to hear the life story. So that was beautiful. I've actually interviewed now couples that have been married 46 years, and then you guys are the youngest couple I have married. And everything in between. I think it was 31 years and then 14 years and 6 years. Awesome. And so you guys are the youngest couple that I wanted to get a nice span. So I'm very grateful that you guys joined me today. So that will wrap up the podcast for today. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment and I will do my best to respond. I hope you have a great morning, day, or night, wherever you are in the world. And God bless you. Bye-bye. You could say bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.